Hello there, I'm Scotty, you're not. Welcome back to Martial Arts Month. I always forget it. Like, it's in my head, but I forget it. We are looking at the 6th film in the Kickboxer franchise, Kickboxer Vengeance, which is a remake of the 1989 original. They got Van Damme to come back, this time playing in a mentor role with Elaine Mousy? I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. As Kurt Sloan. And as you would venture to guess, this is more or less the same plot of the original film, although I do like what they do with some of this. Like, when writing this, I bet people are going to know what the plot is. People are going to know this is just like the original, so they kind of mixed it around. So the opening, they kind of start in mid-res, where it's Kurt wants to train with Tong Po. Where he says Master Po, and I was confused at first. I thought his name was Duran. Then I realized it was Tong Po he was talking about. So he wants to train with Tong Po, and he has this cool fight scene with George St. Pierre, who's a badass. You ever seen him in, like, Captain America the Winter Soldier, and in some of his MMA fights, he is a badass, and he does good with this fights, back and forth. Here, he has to prove himself, so he does, and so he's taken in to train, but this is all a ruse as he wants to kill Tong Po. And then we go flashback to the events that we know from the original film, where they're training. This time, though, it's different. When Eric is asked to go to Thailand, he does it alone, without Kurt. Kurt's left behind. But he gets a ticket and an invite to go there. He shows up just in time to see Tong Po, and there's another big change: kill him. Yeah, Tong Po breaks his neck and kills him. This police officer lady comes in and is our love interest for the movie. Her name is Liu, and she's the love interest in this. I didn't realize it was her at first. But yeah, and what I do like, this is very realistic. The Chinese officers, or Taiwanese officers, whatever you want to say, actually speak Taiwanese. Really? You get subtitles, but it's like, you go to a foreign country in a movie, and normally they just speak English, because it's easier to do that. But I appreciate it. They actually have them speak in their native language, and I like that. I had to do a little more reading, but I like that. And so, still in the flashback, we find out that he is taken to Master Durand to get what was some money left behind. It was his fee, what he was paid to participate in the tournament, or in the fight, and he left it to Kurt. Well, Kurt uses that money to get to Tong Po, and this is a fight with him. He wants to fight him, he wants to kill him, everything, but he is just let go. He is actually arrested by the cops who break in. Yeah, he's arrested by the cops. He's taken in because there's a cop that's in on this. And another thing that I like is that they pretty much say that this was a setup. Because this Marcia, played by Gina Carano, she works for Tong Po. So they pretty much say it was a setup. They don't actually say it, but you can pretty much guess that's what it was, because she's getting all these fighters, and Tong Po eventually just kills them all, I think. Because he showed no remorse, And I also like this shot that we see when the cops come in. She goes and she fires into the sky, which you don't do, because bullets got to come down somewhere, lady. But she fires it up into the sky, and everyone scatters, except for Kurt, who goes to Eric's body. I do want to comment that the guy they had playing Eric, like the guy they had in the original, looked like a professional fighter, because he was. This guy, I don't know, looks like Johnny Cage if he did more cocaine or something. I don't know. He looks like a doped out Johnny Cage, almost. He's older. Hey, nothing against the guy. He died during or at the end of his production in his sleep, nonetheless, which I'm always afraid of, but doing myself. But yeah, he was. Sucks. And at first I thought, well, maybe that's why they had him killed off. But no, it seems like he died after his stuff was done. So, I don't know. But, yeah. So he goes to Durand, tells him, I want you to train me to beat Tong Po. I want you to train me Muay Thai. I do like, though, when they first go to introduce Durand, they have this old Chinese guy there. Are you Eric Sloan's teacher? Start speaking in Taiwanese, and he's like, what are you doing? I'm teaching him. I am Mr. Durand. So he's the one. Yeah, I like that. And Van Damme does a good job. He's not the star, but unlike certain people, Steven Seagal, he's not billing himself as the star in this movie. Unlike certain other movies where Steven Seagal bills himself as the star, but he's not the star, but he's front and center on the box, which Van Damme is. But it will say him and one other person, and like there's one movie, I don't know what movie it was, but there's like 4 people on the box, 2 or 3 of which are big, and one's like in the back. It's the one in the back who's the actual star of the movie, and the 3 big celebrities are pushed to the front. Yes, they put Van Damme's face in, along with the other big celebrities. By the way, Tong Po is played by David Bautista, and he's pretty good in the role. He's like a soft-spoken type version of Tong Po, and it works. So Durand agrees to train Kurt, although Lou doesn't like that because they start to become a little lovey-dovey. It's a weird montage where he's training him, and then it cuts to them make it out. And like that was awful quick that they sort of got together. That's the one thing I can criticize, is that the love interest thing happens pretty quick and is kind of inconsequential if you really think about it. All it does is serve to kind of pad out the runtime just a little bit, like by 5 minutes, because there's not much padding in this. But yeah, he's training him in the Muay Thai and having him run around and do all this stuff. And these kids are yelling, "Don't you take a break?" He's like, "He won't let me." Okay, coconut break. It's like throwing coconuts. You have to break the coconuts. It's literally coconut breaks. Coconut break. Breaking the coconut break. You get it? And of course, Van Damme just busts the coconut. I don't think you can actually do that. I only give enough strength in your arm to do that. But whatever, Van Damme movie rules. Believe the unbelievable. There is also another scene where Kurt does the splits, which is the Van Damme thing, and he's like, "The splits! We have important training to do." They kind of a nod. Like, Van Damme can still do the splits. You all know that, but he doesn't do it. It's like it's a nod to Van Damme because the splits. And yeah, and I also like with Durand, they don't so much as say it why he's training Kurt. It's mostly like, oh, he sees determination in him, but also in this version he also trained Eric. So in his eyes as well, it's not just Kurt's vengeance, but his vengeance as well. So it's kind of, if Kurt wins, he also gets that vindication. Because it was his student too. Even though he says, "I just train. I don't care about what they do, who they fight. I just train." But how much of that is truth and how much of that is bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, he's training him, and then Kavi shows back up, and that's George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre shows back up. He says, "I got kicked out. I went to help," but after a kick-ass fight with Van Damme. Yeah, you see Van Damme and George St. Pierre just go at it. After a fight, Van Damme, Durand, forces him to admit that he was there to spy. But he's like, "Well, now you work." He's like, "I work for Tong Po. Now you work for me." And cuts along. So it's like, yes, he becomes sort of an ally. And it sucks. I already looked it up. He's not in the next one. He needs an ally, man. All we get Lou back in Durand, and someone named Kavanaugh. I think that's the crooked cop guy. Anyway. So Lou gets the idea to try to arrest this Marsha, but she sees them coming from out of the way, and shootout happens, and she gets away. But Tong Po agrees to fight Kurt after the challenge, and it's like a 3-round kind of fight. The first one's regular kickboxing, kicking, punching, all that stuff. Second one, you get weapons where it's put the bandage on, you put it in the stuff, and then the glass, and you do that. And then the third one, which is different from the other one, is you get swords. And so, yeah, that gets a little nasty. But before we get to the fight, we got a little bit of filler. Just a little bit of filler. When Lou, not wanting Kurt to get hurt, arrests both him and Durand. She said, this is for your own good. And arrests him. And then they just break out of jail. Right? Oh, by the way, there is a point. Like, it does follow the format after this. They go to the bar. But it's not for a dance scene. It's actually a fight. There's a fight. Don't worry. Don't worry. They do pay homage to the dance scene. Don't you worry about it. And I like where it's placed because this movie, unlike the original, had a bit of comedy to it. It's a little more laid back. This is more serious. It's a fully revenge-fueled story. So it makes sense that it's mostly serious. So having a dance scene in the middle of the movie wouldn't really work. But they do pay homage to it later. I will talk about it. But, so yeah, they go to jail and they're there for like 5 minutes and then they escape and just go to the compound and fight Tong Po. And we see the first 2 rounds and then we see that Lou has showed up. She arrests Marsha and Marsha's like, well, I'll be out tomorrow. She's not in the second one, so I guess maybe that's not true. She's got corrupt cops and stuff everywhere. And it's one of those things. We don't think we see her again, so yeah. And so it's the third round, final round, the swords, and once again Lou comes in. She's gonna fire the gun into the air, which again you don't do because bullets have to come down, lady. I'm just saying, that's not how. Bullets come down. The bullet is literally shot out of the gun. The propulsion, you can't just and expect, but no. You know? She goes to do it and she stops because she sees Kurt fighting and she stops and she realizes he has to do this. So she's like, no. Tells her cops to back off and we see the rest of the fight. And it's a brutal fight all the way through. The first 2 rounds and then especially this with the swords, it's brutal. And you got intercut that with Redneck one. Yeah! And he gets a suplex on him. Like, that's my boy! And that right there means that what he told him at the beginning was bullshit. He does care, because otherwise he wouldn't have said that. That's my boy! You know. Although, by Simon Miller rules, he is not German, therefore it gets it down. Sorry, not my rules. Anyway, eventually, Tong Po impales him on the sword, but it doesn't take, and he has to end up impaling Tong Po on the sword. Tong Po dies in this. He's dead. Actually, I have a movie where Tong Po is actually taken care of. I mean, he's defeated in the first one. Second one, he's also just defeated. And then his final appearance, he's almost killed and then stopped, and he gets away. Because I guess they maybe tried to make another one, but it didn't. Tong Po wasn't a part of it. Why they didn't have Tong Po in the 5th one, I don't know. That probably made the movie better, but they can only bring Tong Po back so much. And I like to think that maybe 5 was a direct sequel to 3, ignoring 4. Because again, if you think about it, if he's supposed to be a badass DEA agent now, as well as a fighter, I don't think he'd be able to get killed that easily. But if he's just some fighter who, I don't know, didn't come off anyway, David. But anyway, yeah, he wins, and then the movie ends with them on the water, leaving. He's with Liu, and Kavi's there with 2 other women, whoever they are, and then you see Master Durand on the side. There's no dialogue. He's just like, he says goodbye in the old Van Damme way. That's the end. Or is it? Because we cut to the credits and we see it's Kurt. It's Elaine Moosey, because I couldn't tell from here because my eyesight's not so good. So I had to watch it again on my phone. And it is him. It's Elaine Moosey, whatever. It's Kurt. He comes out, he looks around, and then it cuts to the dance scene from the original with Van Damme. And then there's a split screen and shows him dancing with it. And like, there you go. because when they showed them going to the problem, are they going to do the dance? Are they gonna have their version of the dance scene? And when they did, I'm like, oh. But then once I got to the film, like, you know what? That was a pretty serious film, and it worked. And then this happened, and I went, of course. We save it for the little end credit thing when they did the dance. And hey, he's pretty good. You can match up with that. We need him and Van Damme in the dance hall is what we need. But yeah, yeah. Although it's weird in context when they show both, because this is a reboot, a remake. So they show the original and that I don't know. And apparently, Michael Kissy, who played Tong Po in the original, was a prisoner, but I couldn't figure out which one it was. He's friends with Van Damme, so of course he got a cameo, but I didn't pay attention enough to see which one he was. But he's in there, apparently. So is Cain Velasquez, who I also missed. Look, I had an incident where a drawer broke more, and I had to pick up a bunch of pennies, nickels, and dimes and put them into a piggy bank, Pikachu bank and a Charizard bank. So I was busy doing that, but I was able to see most of it. All right. Hey, this is the best one since the first one. I think this is really good. So I'm going to say it's pretty good. I think it holds up. I think it holds up. It's not that old. It's 2016, so it's not that old. But I think it's a decent remake. It follows the basic story structure with few things thrown around, some things mixed up a little bit. But I think as a remake, I think it's pretty good. I think it holds up. I think it does what you want a remake to do. It tells the story of the original, but mixes it up a bit, right? By starting in mid-res and not just following this story shot for shot, it works. And having them not be together when he decides to go to Thailand. You cut a lot out, like with Durant, but you kind of need that. It's just a flashback story. So it works. I like it. So, what are your thoughts on Kickboxer Vengeance? Let me comment below. You should like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'm Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.